Okay, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Like you said, I work with resort lifestyle communities, and I put partnering in growth there as just doing a very little bit of research about Clark and your dynamic growth that you've had is pretty inspiring to see, and that's really the same venue that we're in right now, as I'll walk you through. And I'm incredibly non-traditional, so feel free to ask any questions or throw any comments out at any time. I can handle heckling and things like that. But really, us partnering in growth together, I want to get to know you just as much as hopefully you want to get to know us and take care of us. But it really all starts with the background of our portfolio and who we are. We're a vertically integrated company. And I'll go really into how we became one in a little bit, but this first has to do a lot with Cameron General Contractors. That's our construction side of our company that's building our communities. With our 27 projects under construction, that puts us in 6 additional states, or under contract, that puts us in 6 additional states, meaning we've signed, we own the land, now we have to work with the zoning to be able to get there. So that's going to bring us to a total portfolio of 75 communities in 31 states. And we don't see ourselves slowing down in any way, shape, or form. Our director of market research is usually in about 5 cities in 1 week throughout the month, looking at land and purchasing. And we see ourselves aggressively going towards 100 and then taking a look back and saying, is this where we're at? Because when it comes to the construction side of it that we've built, they've been through the growth, now the operations is going through the growth, and we'll see if we need to build on from that standpoint.
How far in the future are those projections?
The 75 communities, right now with our growth, we're going anywhere between 5 and 9 communities a year that we're opening up. So our construction has been anywhere from 11 months to about 26 months from when we start moving dirt. So when we have our projections, they put 2050 on them, but then we reel it in just to give ourselves quite a bit of time. But it's usually, once we start moving dirt, it's going to be anywhere from 1.5 years to just a touch over 2 years to get those done. So we have, and we do have a few of them that are in the staging process right now, meaning we haven't hired the project manager yet. We know that we're going to be building there. So I don't have a specific number for you. But as far as the top 10 providers of new senior housing goes, and this is all senior housing, right now Resort Lifestyle Communities, with those 15 communities that are under construction, that puts us at 1,923. It says units, we call them apartments. But that puts us as the fastest growing retirement living community that there is out there, company. And we are family owned. So on top of that, that's one of the only family owned ones on the list also. And this shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone in here that the baby boomers are coming and they're growing. Right now, we're at 12.5 million people that are 80 plus. Our communities are 55 plus, but our average age that lives in the community is about 82 and a half. It was 84, but as we continue to build, it keeps going down, because when we build a new community, we usually have a lot of couples moving in, a lot of younger people. When I say younger, I'm talking early 70s, right? We're solely independent living. We're cookie cutter. We're building almost the exact same physical building everywhere. We aren't buying anything. We aren't doing any acquisitions. We aren't messing with different models, which gives me an incredible advantage against my counterparts that are with other companies. When I talk to some of my counterparts, when I talk to them at the Senior Dining Association, they have an acquisition that just happened, and now they have to deal with 4 kitchens and 6 dining rooms. And I'm talking to 30 chefs that have almost the same footprint, almost the same equipment, and as long as they're full, the same census almost. So there's so much that is just consistent across the board when we're having conversations and building best practices, that it helps with the streamlining of it. But when you look at independent living, that's the blue line that's happening there. And then you have the majority of a community being assisted living is the red line, and the a majority of it being memory care and high-end nursing in the green line. That's just because of overbuilding. There's so many different developers that are getting into retirement living that are simply that, just retirement development, and they don't fully research and understand the audience. When retirement living, what it puts us in right now is a niche. because we are the only independent living company. There's a need for CCRC, meaning independent living with assisted living and then going into memory care all under the same roof. There's a need for that, but there's also the niche. And when you think about someone wanting to go into senior living, when you go into a CCRC, they don't sell it this way. You don't hear the salespeople say it, but the thought and the process behind it is that's where you're going to die, right? When it comes to independent living, that's where you're going to live. And it's a different niche. So when you look at our pace that we have, this answers a little bit more of the question. Our current pace, we opened up 7 new communities in 2017, 2018, another 7, and 2019, we dropped down to 5, and then 2020, we're looking to ramp back up to 8, and our future pace, that's our goal, that's our BHAG, our Big Hairy Audacious goal, is we're looking to open up 1 community a month. So that means we're building a team. Currently, when we go in and open a community, it's everybody that your team met that's going in and opening up a community, meaning you can't overlap because there's no cloning, there's no splitting people. So that's the way we will be ramping up when we go to 12 communities a year. The construction side is figuring it out. They really are. So now it's the operations side and our growth on how do we get in there and operate with the same consistency? Because when I go into these communities, they're built pretty darn well, and we're eliminating a lot of the construction problems that you see in new construction. So that's the foundation we're built on in our vertical integration. And how we got connected with you is a story of persistence and patience. So I don't have a fantastic memory, but I also don't delete any emails. So if you look through my email inbox, this is an email from Becky Smith sent in August 2nd of 2017, right? And you can look through my inbox and there's a few, and it's just an introductory conversation like, hey, I heard about you, this is who I am, right? So there's probably a few of these in my inbox as you're going through this growth, and I came into this growth with a vendor partner. I already had a vendor partner that we were already married to. It was the Cisco Lincoln House that was supplying everything for us. The relationship wasn't broken. Don't try to fix it. You've got 7, 8 communities to open up this year. There's distractions and phone calls and things like that. And that's honestly what I thought of this email then is, okay, seems nice, back burner, don't delete it. Here we go. You fast forward. This is an email from April where we're talking about our tabletop janitorial and it's time to get a bid, right? The relationship was strained a little bit with my vendor. They weren't able to keep up with our growth. I was getting 2 pallets of the same thing, one that was supposed to be in Arizona and one that was supposed to be in Nevada. I was missing all different kinds of things. We forgot the silverware on this one. Turns out it's difficult to open up a community when you're missing silverware. You can miss a pot or pan, but when you're missing silverware, it's a big deal. So that persistence and patience, it struck at the right time, and that's really how the connection between Clark and Resort Lifestyle Communities came to be. And now getting into Resort Lifestyle Communities and I guess my background and what I do. Who here has been a server before? If you've been a server before in a restaurant, just raise your hands up. I'm going to do kind of elementary school and hold them up high. Okay, keep them up. Who here feels like they were a really good server? Like it was a skill set? Be proud, hold your hand up high. Okay, there's 3 of us. All right. So my background is Darden Restaurants. Okay, I started at Darden Restaurants when I was 19. I went through culinary school. I had a pipe dream of opening up my own restaurant, and then I realized that I didn't want to do that. So when I graduated from culinary school, I stayed with Darden Restaurants. You know, the money a manager makes when you're 21 is pretty good beer money, and that's where I was at. So I stayed with Darden Restaurants, and it was really during Darden Restaurants' prime. Not that they've fallen, but this was a time that they were investing in everyone. And leadership colleges that I got to go through, Rollins College, they were able to send me to Italy. They were investing in their people. So when it came to being a server, and I kept my hand held up high that I feel like I was a pretty nail server making good tip money and things like that, that's not because it was something natural. I used to be pretty shy, and I sucked as a server. My first day serving, I spilled a pitcher of ice water in a lady's lap on her 91st birthday. That's how I served, right? But what I had the advantage of doing is working with Darden restaurants and developing skills. And what I learned through being a server for a short time there before I went into management was there's a difference between service and hospitality. There's a big difference between service and hospitality, and that's what Darden Restaurant trains best. Not everybody that works for them learns it, but there is a difference. And you can recover from service mistakes, but you can't recover from hospitality mistakes. And as you work through being a great server, you remember your regulars, and they come in and you're excited to see them. One of my favorite customers was a guy that would leave me $1, but he came in all the time and he was next Marine and told me stories. So it wasn't about the tips then, it was about the relationship. All right, and that's really, when you think about great service, are you really thinking about, man, they brought my check back after I had 3 bites because I told them that I was in a hurry. Is it just about those steps, or is it about the way that they presented it and the connection that you have with that individual? I'm talking about restaurants right now because that's my background, but that's true to everywhere in life. There's a difference between service and hospitality, and that personal connection has everything to do with it. So at Resort Lifestyle Communities, I came into Resort Lifestyle Communities after working 17 years with Darden Restaurants. And I came into my position right now, there were only 9 communities that we had. So there were the chefs in each community and myself that traveled and oversaw the communities, and that was it. And as I went in there, I didn't know anything about retirement living. I thought that I was going to be instructing people to scoop the applesauce into the round hole in a form tray, right? But we're independent living, and we don't have any therapeutic diets. So going into it, I couldn't use the picture I wanted to because I stole it off the internet. So my integrity police just have this. So I'm going to give you a mental picture of when I walked into the community for the first time. I didn't know what I was doing, but I had been with Darden Restaurants, and I was out talking to the residents saying, how are you doing? Where are you from? How do you like the food here? And getting to know them. And I didn't know that the previous people before me who were really good chefs, were never out in the dining room. And the ignorance was bliss because that shaped exactly what we're doing at Resort Lifestyle Communities now, because it's been shaped by our residents and how we approach our food service. And we call it culinary dining. But at Darden Restaurants, there was the principles. At Resort Lifestyle Communities, there's the core values. We have kindness and compassion, respect, honesty, and service excellence. And that's really all I knew going into it as far as how to operate. That's all I really knew, so that's what I felt like I was going to be successful at Resort Lifestyle Communities if I followed their core values. And that's all I really knew about them, and that's how we got to develop it. Becky posed a few really good questions and comments to me to think about before I came to speak to you, and I just want to talk about those a little bit. So, what are the characteristics of the best partners? And the first one is going to be the interaction, the hospitality versus service. Yeah, I want my order on time, I want it accurate, but is the hospitality there? You know, is there an actual person there? When you're interacting with someone, and I know not all of your customers you interact with, but when you are, is that hospitality there? You can hear someone smiling on the phone. There's a difference between getting a phone call from a salesperson and they actually genuinely are having a good day and enjoy their work. And then there's the people that you can tell they just went in the mirror and splashed water on their face and had a Red Bull and, hey, we're gonna get this sale, how you doing? You know, it's a big difference. And you know, from a vendor partner, I should feel like the only priority. You know, when I'm talking to someone, I should feel like the only priority. The worst thing to hear, the absolute worst thing to hear, and I hear it a lot, is, sorry I didn't get back to you. I got this multi-million-dollar deal on my plate that I just have to get taken care of. You know, all I'm hearing is, you're small potatoes, I might get to you, and this is the level of serviceability you're going to get. So the first thing I'd say as far as this is, as a vendor, own your level of responsiveness. Own it as a human being. If you make a mistake, just say, I'm sorry, I failed in this area. If you humanize it and are genuinely apologize for it as opposed to justifying it or making some sort of excuse for it, you're not getting a phone call back. I'm actually flagging you in an email inbox that says, don't work with them. I have one of those.
But just own anything as far as lack of responsiveness. And then what I just said about providing that for the customer, allow your customer to do that. Allow the customer to be the exact opposite of what's expected of you. I don't know if she saves all her emails, but it might be, I've been busy with openings, I've been doing this. Exact opposite of what I just told you to provide for your customer. Allow your customer to do that. I understand, just let me know when you have a few minutes, or let me know when you'd like to talk about it, or I have some great ideas I think will add value to you. When you have time, let me know. I'm gonna give you a really good example of what really galvanized me going from let's try out Chartier's Bend to let's ramp this up and get going. And that means with all of that growth, let's work with Clark and let's sign a partnership agreement and get rolling with this. We were checking in all of our small wares. They came to help, and I have a grill sitting there. And Becky came over and said, we can get you a grill. This is one that I ordered on Amazon, right? It was a $400 grill. And I told her, well, I can order a grill from you, but I know what commercial quality outdoor grills cost. They last 3 to 4 years, and then they go bad. I can get a grill from Amazon, and it costs $400, and it lasts 3 to 4 years, and then I have to replace it. Which one costs more or less to replace, right? And when I said that, it wasn't a sales pitch. It was, oh, that makes sense. Not only that, but I overheard a conversation between them of somebody else who was looking for a grill but couldn't afford it. Oh, I can tell them about it. And that's just the true, genuine caring about your customers and their needs, and understanding that if you do what's best for them, you're gonna earn their loyalty. So overhearing that conversation of, get it, and I can pass this on. Here's some knowledge I can pass on. That's not a sell for you. $7,000 grill versus a $400 grill, you're not making a profit off of it, but you're solidifying relationships and providing that hospitality for your customers. Yep. A comment that Becky put out that I loved was, if something isn't important to the customer, then it is not important. Bells and whistles are distractions and time wasters. You have an incredible website. Not everybody needs everything on your website. And listen to when they say they don't need it. Just like I was saying, I have that email inbox of don't talk to them. If I'm doing a webinar with someone and they're getting to know me, I'm gonna understand that they're gonna try to sell me all the bells and whistles, and I'm gonna share with them what I don't need. And if there's a second conversation and they try to sell me that same thing, they haven't listened. And they're wasting my time. And it's not, no company wants to go change so that they can fit into your package, that especially with software and things like that. They want your package to help support them in what they're doing. So if we're not paying attention to the bells and whistles that people don't want, and you keep going and going, it's just saying, I'm not listening. So if it's something that's not important to the customer, then it is not important. Take notes on your customers and note what they do not want, so you don't spend time, their precious time, on that, because you will lose them very quickly. And if somebody's trying to sell me some sort of reporting that I know I don't need because I have it from my accounting department, and they go there again, it's a trigger word. I don't even know if I'll say goodbye to you. I might just click and, I don't actually do that. Good to Great by Jim Collins. My favorite book in the world. If you find my original copy, there's a finder's fee on it. I don't remember who I lent it to, but it's tabbed, it's highlighted. I love that book. And when you have a book like that, you tab it, highlight it, you can review it, and you can go to it in 10 minutes and have some great things. But the level 5 leadership that it talks about the personal humility and professional will. It talks about that in level 5 leadership. And the more that I've read The Good to Great, I've realized that they talk about that's the difference factor. That's the difference maker in the top leaders. As we were talking about your Kentucky plant that was built there in this coal, you are the employment for your Kentucky location. I was thinking of Nucor Steel in Norfolk, Nebraska. They went there and because of the work ethic that people had. But that was the vision of a good to great level 5 leader that had personal humility and professional will. And knowing that this was brought up as really one of the key cornerstones in your library at Clark, it made me think about that. And one of the things that we've talked about often with my team is that personal humility and professional will that a lot of those leaders have is fantastic and it's something to learn from, but it doesn't have to be in a CEO or the CFO and the top leader. When you have a room full of people that have that personal humility and professional will, it leads to incredible teams. And this wasn't in the book Good to Great, but this is what I extracted and I use all the time from Good to Great is when you have a team that has those two factors, you see it, you sit back and you see that everybody in a room when they're working on something has a level of respect for each other and also a level of receptiveness. Meaning if this was a board meeting and we were gonna solve some kind of problem, I might be coming into that room with a great idea and I'm gonna present it respectively, but I'm gonna be receptive and let the best idea in the room win. And that's the personal humility that comes from level 5 leadership that every single individual on a great team should actually possess. So, thinking about that, a great vendor, why I'm talking about that is because a great vendor is a great company that invests in their people, similar to things that I've seen in my tour here at Clark. And I changed the verbiage on this one, but the question posed to me, what separates a good vendor from a great vendor? I changed it to, what separates a good vendor from a vendor partner? And it's the relationship. It's a competitive advantage. Having a relationship is a competitive advantage. I want to pose a question to you. What's the difference between best ever and competitive advantage? There's no really wrong answer, but what's your definition? What's the difference between best ever and competitive advantage?
Competitive advantage, you have something that someone else doesn't.
Right.
Versus you're the best at it, but other people have the same thing.
Quick scenario, 100-yard dash. I run it in 16 seconds and I get timed on it, right? I look at that and go, I can do better than that. So I train, I work hard, and I run it in 12 seconds. A little bit faster, I'm booking, right? I put some money against the people in this room if I could do it in 12 seconds. That's my best ever. Would everyone agree with that? But when I get down and I'm in my blocks and I'm ready to go and Usain Bolt gets next to me, am I competitively superior? Right? The competitively superiority that you have and that makes someone from a good vendor to a vendor partner is the relationship. And it's the relationship they have with you. It's not just person to person, and you get this. I just saw it in the tour, you get this. Because it could be service, it could be the website. We went around and did an exercise on who's your favorite, what brand are you loyal to? Mine was Amazon. I don't know anyone from Amazon. I know a little bit about Bezos, but I don't know anything about anyone from Amazon. But the fact that when I get home on the weekends, all my stuff's there, that's a vendor partner, and I use them for work also. Maybe that's going away, right? Okay. Now, Clark's core values. All I know about Clark's core values is these 6 words that are written up here on the screen. I haven't had anyone take me through a Clark orientation or dive into it. But from the standpoint of when I see these core values, what I think of, I spend a little bit of time on these, and it may be what your goals are, they may not be, but core values are something that your customers see when they look into who you are. You can Google and find that these are your core values. And if somebody's looking into it, I guess I'm going to share with you what I think when I see it. First off, the satisfied customer, that's a tough one. I had to step back and look at that because when you take surveys nowadays, there's are you satisfied and then are you very satisfied. So satisfied is a 4 and very satisfied is a 5. So I had to think about that a little bit. And as I thought about Clark, when it comes to satisfied customers, I've actually already been a referral partner for you. I've been referring some of my other contacts and networks to you. And I describe myself as satisfied. I actually describe myself as very satisfied. But what was it? It was the validation that I'm being taken care of. It was the validation. I have follow-up emails all the time or calls on, did you get what you need? Are you being taken care of here? Let me know when you have a minute. I think we have something for you. I think we have a solution for this. And just the listening side of it. So that satisfied piece came from the validation of, this is what you said you wanted, this is what we did we deliver on it? So that validation piece. And then the dynamic company. That's defined by the customer. Are you a dynamic company? That's defined by the customer. So you would hope that the customers are loyal to the brand. And that's what I think of when I see dynamic company on there. And the final one, invested employees. People who make good decisions. That's where I see invested employees is people that are making decisions based on this, these are your core values. This means that people that work for Clark should have a purpose and not a job, meaning there's all different kinds of cross-functional capabilities. A great example is getting a tour today covering Twitter, Facebook, coffee connoisseur, beer genius, right? Which, by the way, that coffee, I think you sprinkled with jet fuel. It was tasty. I'm good to go. But that cross-functional capability of serving everything, and I want to tell just a quick story about an invested employee, because I think you probably see aspects of this in your company. And the individual, the family individual that owns our company, he has an aviation, he has a plane. One of the pilots who has that plane, I have a food truck for the bank that the guy also owns that I manage. The pilot's looking at the food truck and calls me while I'm traveling last week and says, hey, I noticed you have a belt that's worn out. It's going to break. Oh, crap. I'll see what I can do. He's like, no, I'll stop by the auto parts store and fix it for you. That's cross-functional capability. That's going to our core value of kindness and compassion and respect. He had compassion for, I'm only home on the weekends, well, how am I going to get a belt fixed? But that's the type of thing that I look at when I think of invested employees. I think of specific names of people and actions that they've done that show it. Our future, our core values of kindness, compassion, honesty, and service excellence, that's the filter that Luke put it through when he went in to change that belt. And our future, the technology versus touch, this is huge for us. You think about the venue that we're in, you put your parents in a place and they're participating in activities. Do you want an email that is automated that says they did bingo at 10 o'clock and then they went to lunch and then they went to a movie at 7 p.m.? Or do you want to know the lifestyle director that's going to call you or send you a text or see you at a Sunday brunch that says, at bingo, your dad told the funniest joke? You want a relationship and to know people are taken care of. So we're very, very careful about technology. We want it all back end right now because it's a relationship business and we're taking care of people's family members. And our Freedom Dining program that we have, that's our competitive advantage. For most of the industry that's out there, they have very, very strict timelines. So if I'm a resident at one of our competitors, I have to be to breakfast at 8, I have to be to lunch at noon, and I have to be to dinner at 5. And this is independent living that's out there. So they come to the dining room, it's not served to them in a meal. Our Freedom Dining program has so many different factors, including casual dining, fine dining, room service, all-day dining, a bistro area, and a chef's pantry grab and go. All of it is in one central location as opposed to all these hubs and coffee shops because dining is social and we have it at the center of our communities. It's right there in the center of the communities and everyone can see it. Not only that, but we have the range of time. Breakfast is from 6:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Come as you please. You're not regimented. That Freedom Dining program is huge. You look at what's happened in the industry, Panera Bread, Chipotle, we've just taken that. We have casual dining. And we used to call it cafeteria, but we upscale it. Chipotle, you walk in there, that's run like a lunch lady cafeteria as far as the design of this, and this. It's just there with hospitality. There's not the no soup for you from Seinfeld behind there, right? It's the relationship that we're developing. But we get to see the people that are coming through the line also and see them turn their nose up at it if they like it or not. So that's really the way that we've designed the program. And the future behind Clark, the dining innovation, this was something that Becky asked about, the dining innovation, we're not innovative. This right here, we have the rationale combi oven, right? It's been around for a while. We have 3 combi ovens, 2 existing and 1 going in a community, and now we're starting to put them in our new communities, not because we need them, but only to recruit chefs, because we want to recruit quality chefs. So dining innovation is really an oxymoron for us because as long as we have fire, we're going to cook something. We're going the opposite direction of the industry, meaning if you look at retirement living, they're hiring chefs to heat things up. They're hiring cooks. They're eliminating chefs. If you look at a lot of our competitors, they've taken chefs from salary to hourly. You can go to any food vendor and buy a program and they'll tell you how to do it, how much, and the portion size. We're going the opposite direction. We're hiring chefs that want to do scratch cooking. They're coming from fine dining, catering, hotels. A lot of them have young families and they don't want to work till 2 in the morning and then do a clopen and have to be back at 6 in the morning. That close open's rough if you have a family. So we're going the opposite direction and bringing chefs in and saying, scratch. We want you to be the scratch. Here's your Cisco house. You can buy anything you want as long as it's not pre-made. Here's a few cheats that you can use. Your parameters are, here are the hours that you work with for your labor model. This is the budget that you have, and you need to have happy residents and the kitchen needs to be clean. That's a successful chef. Because if we take a quality chef and say, here's a bag of soup that was prepared and frozen, boil it, we're taking away the creativity. Being a true chef is a balance of art and science. And as long as we have that creativity, it's there. So we also have to have the hybrid chef that can go out and talk to residents and get to know them, because our menus, we give them a templated menu that's costed out and they can tweak it. But our menus are written in the dining room. Our menus are written by chefs going out and talking to residents, and they find out that they made the meatloaf and they followed our recipe for what we provide them with, and they didn't like the green peppers in the meatloaf, change it. Take that recipe, light it on fire. Don't use it. Make sure the residents are happy. So our menus are written in the dining room, and we don't have a test kitchen. RLC test kitchen is every kitchen. So much hinges on our chefs and their quality of life and them staying, because it's a relationship. And then as far as them being able to have the creative outlet, I think this is probably one of the biggest factors that our chefs learn, is trust is everything. If I'm a chef and I want to do a pork belly, or I want to have quail eggs flown in served on a silk pillow, I have to earn the residents' trust before I'm going to be able to do something with that type of creative expression. Which means if we're going to make meatloaf, make the best damn meatloaf they've had. If we're going to make fried chicken, it better be the recipe that one of the residents gave you and all of them have tested and approved after the testing. We have to be brilliant with the basics and do those right. And once I've served my meatloaf, my chicken fried steak, and every time I have Mexican food, I have all of the toppings, and nobody forgot the sour cream, and every time I've served any type of seafood, whether it's shrimp, clams, or fried cod, remember the tartar sauce. As long as I have that, and I've developed that trust, then I can start getting a little bit more creative, and that's where our chefs get that creative expression and are doing some really, really interesting and fun things. Finally, our challenges. Growth, crushing culture. That's our biggest challenge that we have. That's our biggest challenge we have, and it comes from having the right people on the bus. Another reference to good to great. As we're hiring all of these individuals, what's our selection and training process, and how are we bringing the right people on the bus? Our residents and children are going to decide, their children are going to decide how we do it. Our focus and our format that we have set up is very unique. We don't have an executive director that works 9 to 5 or maybe stays late. Our communities, the way that they're built, we have resident managers, meaning we have a married couple or a couple that lives in an apartment in the community. We give them an apartment. They eat 3 meals a day, 7 days a week there if they want. My parents are 71 and 72. If I'm thinking about putting them in some sort of home or a retirement community, I want them in a resort lifestyle community, not because it helps our bottom line, because here's a relationship with managers, this couple that live there, and they care about them. Now, that's our greatest competitive advantage, the management couples, and it is our biggest HR nightmare, right? But it's worth it because the competitive advantage is that big. When you bring a couple in, one of them may have business acumen and one of them may have never worked a day in their life. But the fact that they are there to take care of people and that relationship is there and solidified, I would feel comfortable sending my parents there, and adult children are the biggest influencers. That's our greatest competitive advantage. So that really has a lot to do with it. And before I open it to questions, I just have to say thank you. One of the coolest gestures that I think Clark has done is ask where they can donate to for me spending the time with you today. And I chose Youth Villages of Atlanta. And I know nothing about youth villages except for what's right here. More than 30 years of helping children, families live successfully. But I do know that they have one individual that works for them that has a heart of service and hospitality. I was actually robbed in Atlanta. I don't remember when it was. I'm kind of blocking it out. It was end of July, beginning of August. They call it a slider at a gas station. They pull up, they grab your bag out of your car right when you're sitting there filling up gas. This one drove around, pointed a gun at me. I was like, take everything. But so I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't have anything. And I had a flight. So I still went to the airport, got to the Delta counter and asked to use a phone, called my wife, called my brother, and I didn't have anything, but I didn't want to miss a flight without a phone. Before I even boarded my flight, there was a lady named Marcia who had picked up my bag, found the business card that was in it, called my office, and already had a FedEx tag next day air to do that. They had taken all the electronics out and thrown my bag out, right? So she followed up with that. She had my cell phone number. I had 3 messages on my cell phone. The first one was, I hope you're okay. I hope you're okay. I know this isn't a great neighborhood. I found your bag in the middle of the street. I don't know what happened. Please, for my peace of mind, call me. She got a hold of my office. My office is freaking out. And she's doing all of this groundwork to make sure my bag gets activated and beat me back to Lincoln, Nebraska. So I don't know anything about youth villages, but that's where Marcia works. And that's the type of person that's taking care of the youth and the future of Atlanta. But ultimately, it comes down to what we're talking about. That's the core of it is no matter what business you're in the human business. And when you connect with people and show that you care about them, it makes a difference in people's lives. It makes a difference in the company. And when you're making a difference in your company, you're making a difference in the sustainability of what you're doing and the mouths that everybody here has to feed. And that's why I say growth and partnership, is because what I see in Clark and what we're striving to achieve right now, I actually feel like there's a lot of it where you're providing things for us as far as the materials and the things we're purchasing for you. But when I look at Clark right now and what I've known about you a little bit before and what I saw today, there's a lot of your footsteps that you've tread that I can follow in and I can share with our company as we're going through the growth. So thanks for the time. I'm open for any questions and I'm hanging out for the day.
Yeah, sure are. Awesome. Any questions?
The folks that own Resort Lifestyle, you said it's a family?
It's a family-owned company, and I'll give you the quick version of it. Brett Collingsworth was a home builder, knew he didn't want to do it forever. His father-in-law installed carpet in one of our competitors. They had a big carpet company that turned apartments, and he told them, hey, these apartments just have mini fridges and air conditioners, and these are people that are trying to enjoy their life. You build a nicer apartment, you have a great business. He was on a cruise, saw the way that it was designed our buildings to be like cruise ships on land. So you walk in, it's a nice mall area. You can see all 3 floors, big open dining area. He basically got off of a cruise, came back, had an architect that was building on houses say, let's do this thing. And the first one opened up in 2001 in Lincoln. And we're building almost the same thing that he built in 2001, with the exception of there's an exhibition line kitchen that we have now.
I was curious, like, how did the whole thing get started? That's interesting.
Yeah, that's really what it is. And this guy, I would describe Brett Collingsworth as a level 5 leader. Yeah, he just wants to take care of his people. When you're in a room with him, you have no idea that he's the founder and CEO, and who you wouldn't get that from just an introduction to him.
And it's the community itself, it sounds like it's more of a higher end community.
It does come across as a higher end community as far as the finishes and the build, and the way that we're doing the food allows us to give a higher end food at a lower cost, because when you're going through and you're serving the food, most of the people do casual dining. They don't eat like we eat. You go through and you have asparagus, just give me 1. Brussels sprouts, just give me 3. We have portion personalization happening by just asking. They don't want too much food. They don't want to waste it. So through the fact that appetites are diminishing, they don't have that guilt of throwing food away. And we're able to provide a higher end food, because if we were plating that in the back for presentation purposes, which we still do on some, we'd put 5 asparagus fanned out, and we would put 2 Brussels sprouts on something. So the portion personalization allows us to give a higher end food, and the higher end finishes, you walk in there and it looks much, much higher end than most of our competitors that are around the same price point, because of the construction streamlining that we have. When we order lumber for one of our communities, we're able to order it for 7. That's when we order granite, we're able to order. We have containers of granite just sitting there waiting for the next 15 communities, and that's a pretty good purchase discount.
Those managing couples that are living in each community, how do you choose that?
I don't, thank goodness. We have a really good talent acquisition system. There was a company called Talent Plus, and we were able to recruit one of their best. And she's done a great job of working with a company with doing leadership assessments. And then they go through and they go to one of our communities and they interview with about 6 different people. And then they go through a peer process with some of our higher performing couples. And then we try to talk them out of it with another couple, having a conversation with them. Like, did you think about the fact that when your children come to visit, they have to stay in a hotel because you have a 1-bedroom as a guest apartment, you're coming from a 6-bedroom house. So we try to talk them out of it, and they have to be all in. But it is the biggest challenge. There's some turnover there. It's the lowest turnover in the couple venue in the industry, but right now, with Holiday Retirement getting rid of their couples, really Hawthorne Retirement, and I think one of the other smaller ones are the only really ones that do couples. It used to be 2 couples. You had a regular couple and then a co-couple. We got rid of the co-couple, and we have a dining room supervisor and a concierge now that takes care of those duties, because not only the dynamics of one relationship, but 2 couples, hey, that's a reality show.
Now, with the independent living model, obviously as the residents get older, they need more help. Does your outfit, Resort Lifestyles, then help them transition to the next stage of where they have to go?
We do. We have all different kinds of partners. We do. You can age in place there. You know, we always have an office, and there's always a home health care, and the home health care always has some sort of hospice division. So there's plenty of people that age in place, but we also have partners with different rehab facilities just in each location that we go in and make those partnerships. But when I say it's a niche, it's comical to go in the dining room and you have someone who just walked in there with a walker, has glasses so thick they can't see you, and they're mad because there's a mobilized cart coming through. This isn't assisted living. You know, people always feel like they're younger than they actually are. And so that niche of independent living is a huge factor in us marketing. You know?
Do you have specific dining programs for the residents, or minimums that they have?
It's all inclusive. So like a cruise ship, it's all inclusive. The only thing you have to pay for is going to be a garage, or there's a salon and a pharmacy that's in there too. That's like a convenience store. Those are the only things that you have to pay for. So all of the food is take it or leave it. It's all day. You can come in up and order a sandwich, a pizza, a burger. So it's all inclusive. And the freshman 15 is real. It's pretty cool to see. The best way I can describe it is the way someone else described it to me. It was a guy who had been widowed for 7 years and he lived alone, and he's like, I haven't been able to buy a watermelon, a cantaloupe, or a honeydew in years, because who's going to eat all that? He was eating chicken noodle soup, canned chicken noodle soup every day, just depressed. And then the social environment was great for him, but we've promised fresh fruit every day, and it's kind of one of those things where you're like, duh, you should have that, or fresh fruit every meal. But that's a huge seller for someone who's been just opening up cans of Campbell's soup, because the waste factor of buying a watermelon is insane when you live alone and your appetite's diminished. So, yeah. We're learning about our business through just talking to the residents. Yeah. And that's the best part of my job, is just going into communities and sitting down at a meal time and just listening. Some would argue I'm not the greatest at it, but when it comes to the residents, they really do rule the roost.
What was the largest apartment that you offer? Square
We square footage wise, I want to say it's 1,750 square feet. So we have studio 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments. So, yeah. And they're apartments. They're granite countertops and stainless appliances. The same thing that sells a house is what sells an apartment. So a nice kitchen and a good master bathroom. And you'll go in to talk to some individuals, and they'll use their stove as a liquor cabinet. One lady had blankets in it. Let me unplug that for you. You're not using that. Yeah.
And do you have bars in your community?
We have a lounge with liquor lockers. Another great factor that I have. I don't have to worry about liquor license. We'll have happy hours and we'll give the liquor away. And so far, in every location that we're in, the liquor departments are good with that. because it's sponsored happy hours where our vendors are bringing in the booze and they're pouring it. So we do have a bar, we do serve alcohol, but it's all provided by outside vendors and partners that we have. So I haven't had to worry about liquor licenses, but we're building in Utah right now. So that's going to be a fun one. When I worked for Darden Restaurants, I opened up quite a few restaurants, and you know the liquor laws in Utah can be mind-blowing.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have to talk to them before we even design, because sometimes you can't even see a liquor model. So yeah.
You talk about the number of openings you're going to have a year, what your future growth looks like. There's a lot of competitors on that list. What's the saturation point for the industry?
Undetermined. Our market research, a gentleman by the name of Jake McGlade, who actually I stole those first few slides from, he's a geography major. And he goes in with Google Maps and layers everything over it with the demographic, and not to get completely too deep into it, but if you look at Vegas and Seattle's the birthplace of independent living with holiday retirement, similar population. When we looked at Seattle area, there were 200 competitors. When we looked at Vegas, there were 12. So we have 2 that are open in Vegas. We're building our 3rd right now, looking for land for 3 more. So we're really looking at the demand, and all of that goes into the demographic, the income, and everything around that. Omaha, Nebraska, we have 2 there. We built them there because they were close. That's our worst market. That's the most oversaturated market. We're doing well in that market simply because our best leaders are in there, and we have a great reputation in Omaha. But that can ebb and flow. It can be a tough market. That's the most oversaturated that we have. So, but to be determined. We're not anywhere in South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana. We're not interested in making a convenience mini version. So we have to have that population around. And if you were to draw an arcing line from up here, you know, the New York area, and arc it down to Vegas and Phoenix, all 30 of them are south of that arcing line. There's nothing Pacific Northwest. We've looked at California. There's land, there's demand, and thank goodness there's height restrictions on buildings, and everything has fallen through in California, and I couldn't be happier. Because it's a different country. I've opened up restaurants there, and when I worked with Darden Restaurants, we had to, when they did the labor laws, I had to go into a Capitol Grill with a group of general managers and try to figure out the break laws. And all we were doing was comping meals for 3 nights straight, because how do you run it with their labor laws? So you have to have twice the staff in California, basically. So we're not there yet. Fingers crossed we don't go there. I do like California, though. It's not their laws.
Any plans for any facilities outside the country?
We've talked a lot about Canada. You know, a lot of our senior management has come from holiday retirement. They made a cultural shift when they went from family owned to hedge fund owned. So we have a lot of their leadership there, and they were in Canada. So we've looked closely at Canada, but that's as far as we've really gone. And there haven't really been any trips up there, but we do have, that's on the conversation table of the development team quite often. So there's still plenty here in the US for us to do. Okay?
I have a quick question that's different from the resort lifestyle, but who would you say in your life has been the biggest influencer / mentor as you come up through your career?
Oh boy, that's a good question. Yeah, there's quite a few, and you know, I would say right now, when I came aboard at Lifestyle Communities, there's a gentleman named Steve Muller. He was our COO, and he's still with the company. And one of those guys, a quick story about him. He's on the phone with one of our managers that's opening up a community that answers it on a Saturday night. This manager is just emotional and laying into him about how rough his life is. And Steve's listening to him and just lets him vent for a while and says, hey, I just heard everything you said. I gotta walk my daughter up the aisle. I'll call you back in a little while. And that's his dedication to it, but he's always available, always has a great attitude, and just his relationship factor that he has with people is amazing, and his ability to manage so many different things while developing things. Plus, he's just quirky. He's walking through the office with a basketball, dribbling it around while blasting Christian rock. and dodging my Nerf darts, So he's just a good guy, and he's still with our company, but his wife suddenly passed away, and they have special needs children. So he stays home and takes care of the children and works on special projects. But yeah, I guess the whole, here's a tough situation, besides going to the core values, it's a what would Steve do type thing when I'm challenged with everything. So I definitely say Steve Muller is just a student of life. Yeah. Those are good questions, tough. Now I gotta call him and have a bro moment.
I know when we were at Chartiers, you talked about there's gas, there's electrical piped for transitions in the future for when you get to the point where that resident generation switch wants the Starbucks.
Yeah, I have a huge advantage that nobody knows anything about food in my company. So I have this kitchen that's bigger than it needs to be, but it's not inefficient. We can do the casual dining out of it, but we can also do a big, fully plated banquet out of it. And what's going to happen in the future, that's going to be determined by the people that are coming to live with us and the people that are coming to join them. And the fact that residents' children are coming to eat there, that's a big draw for people because they want their children to visit them versus, I got to take mom out to eat because the home that she lives in, their food's horrible. That's big for us. That's very, very important to us. But so we've piped extra gas lines and water lines, and we're ready for the kitchen of the future. And like right now, we have an extra hood vent that we don't need. We have an electric oven underneath it that we don't need the hood vent. But we thought about all these different things: wood fire, pizza oven, the aging meat. Just not that you need a hood vent, but when you open up an aged meat cooler, it has a bit of an aroma that you don't want going into the dining room. Who really thinks of blue cheese as like a wonderful aroma? I love this stuff, but there's all those different things. And right now we have a self-service cappuccino machine, but we're going to need baristas and a nice cappuccino machine someday with the Starbucks. Babies grow up and want to be there, So we're trying to anticipate it, but one of our chefs described it right now. He's like, this is great because it's like I'm back in the 90s in my prime because that's what they want. Like the 90s fine dining. We're doing lemon stars as a garnish and people are wowed. And some of our chefs are really going well far beyond that, but that's really where we're at right now with our fine dining is, we're not doing anything gastro or anything like that to where we're worried about the fact that we're not keeping up with the trendy bistro down the street. It's what do the residents want? It's still home style cooking. It's a tough spot to be in for our chefs though. We have to prepare them to get beat up because they're in a restaurant. If they come from a restaurant, we have to prep them up that you can please 100% of the people, just not 100% of the time. Because when you have an offering like that, there's someone that's not going to be happy, and that's tough on a chef who basically have Red Bull and ego for breakfast, right? That's all they want is compliments.
Any other questions? Thanks for being here, everybody. Thank you.